Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today, my friends, we're talking about some brutal news. We've got, of course, Hurricane Ian, which is slamming into our friends over there in Florida. And we're going to go through some of this. And I know you've seen a lot of it out there all over the news, all day, everywhere. It's a horrific thing. You can see here, just from this very convenient GIF that we installed here, you can see it's big. It's the whole state of Florida, in other words, is getting blasted by this thing. And so we want to spend a minute today talking about it in our first segment. We'll get some update on what landfall looks like. And then instead of going through and sort of looking at just, sort of the hurricane kind of porn that's out there, I want to talk just about a few things. First of all, sort of the sound, what it sounds like. I found this clip here, and the sound really stood out to me. It's like, oh my goodness, this thing is brutal. So we'll listen to it. There's this other clip of lightning. You can see what the electrical activity sort of looks like, and so we'll zoom in on that. We have some crazy people who fly into the hurricanes on these things, and there's a clip of these gentlemen who are in, one of these storm chaser aircrafts flying into the storm. We'll look at that. We've got this Ian video, this Hurricane Ian at 6 feet video. So if you were 6 feet tall and you were standing there, we'll take a look at what that looks like. And then, of course, this gentleman over from the Weather Channel got taken out by a branch. There it is. He just got taken out. And so it's brutal over there. And we're going to have to go through and assess some of the damage. Now, Ron DeSantis has been pushing back against the media, and there was a very interesting clip of him defending Kevin right there in the background. There's Kevin right there. You can see him shaking his head at the end saying, hey, Ron DeSantis is the man. He's got my back. I've got his back. And so we'll check in on Ron DeSantis, sort of slamming the media and saying, yeah, still really hasn't gotten a phone call. A letter went out from Ron DeSantis today to the Biden people saying, can you give us a blank check for the entire state? And of course, the answer to that is going to be no. And so the politics there will be fun. But we've got Dans Le Monde, who also had a clip. He is smarter than meteorologists now. And this CNN weather reporter was out talking about climate change and sort of had a little bit of spite in his voice, kind of, like, maybe if you would have listened to us, we're smarter than you, Florida. Maybe none of this would be happening to you, kind of one of those deals. So we'll go through all of that today. And, honestly, thoughts and prayers with everybody. Watching a lot of the footage, we talked about this on the morning walk and talk, seeing people's homes under 6 feet of water, it's just catastrophic. And so, we're praying for everybody over there. So we'll get into that over at Hurricane Ian. Now, another brutal. And, this one, the reaction's almost worse than the actual incident. But Joe Biden's brain had an absolute meltdown today. And I know it's like, oh my gosh, I know. It's like how many of these stories can we cover? And I was not going to get into this one today. Honestly, I wasn't until I saw the reaction from the media. The media just went bananas. So quick story on this, right? Joe Biden was out and he talks about this woman, Jackie Walorski, who is no longer with us, rest in peace, who died in a tragic car accident. And Biden was at an event and he said, hey, where the heck is Jackie at? And it was just a gaffe of epic proportions. But what made it even worse was that Karine Jean Pierre in the White House, their response was sort of baffling. They actually didn't really own any of this. And Karine Jean Pierre got asked by the media multiple times about this. And honestly, there was a mutiny there. We're going to listen to this clip. You can hear sort of, the throng of hyenas there in the press room yelling at Karine. You can't move this on from this. Our president is gone. We need answers. And if you have any doubt about his faculties, here's his caretaker, Jill, escorting him out of the Rose Garden. So we've got a lot of that, of course, all in the second segment. And it's really pretty bad. The media, I got to hand it to the media today. They were like vicious wolves out there, finally, asking questions about this. So we'll get into all of that. And then lastly, Donald Trump has decided to extend an offering. If the world is willing, he may negotiate a peace amongst all of the warring parties over there in Russia and Ukraine. So we're going to go into this story. He posted on True Social. He said, hey, if you need somebody to come in here and solve all this stuff, I can do it for you. Just let me know. He posted it on Truth. So we'll look at that. We also have Secretary Blinken, who's responding to some of the recent news there that the Nord Stream pipeline has been bombed or sabotaged or exploded or something. We don't really know. But Blinken said that they're investigating it. And we always have to check in on international issues with the very intelligent, much smarter than us, me, maybe not you, definitely smarter than me, Jake Sullivan. And he went to Oxford. So we got to just hold up, drop everything. What do these people say? Because they're even smarter than the Harvard folks that have gotten us into this mess. So maybe the Oxford people can get us out of it. We'll have to see. But very conveniently, there was another Baltic pipeline that opens simultaneously. So, their competitor pipeline gets exploded simultaneous to their opening. And it's very interesting how all of that, conveniently happens. And they were very, very excited about this, saying that they're ending a Russian era of energy. And so it's like, I think they're spiking the football here. I think they're like, see, well, perfect. It's perfect. If Coke woke up one day and all of the Pepsi cans were hypercarbonated and started exploding all over the place, and Coke was like, oh, well, that's just terrible. I wonder how that happened. Where'd they get their carbonation from? Oh yeah, that's us, something. It's weird. It's weird. So we'll go through all of this and more. And my friends, if you want to be a part of the show, the best place to do that is over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Amazing community over there. And we have special member only content that we post both to YouTube and our locals membership. It is the morning walk and talks and some of the live streams. We did a box opening earlier on in the week. But really, if you want to support the show this week, the best place to do that this week and the next week is by making a dono over to the Eric's House annual fundraiser. The link is in the description below. ericshouse.org is a nonprofit organization. I'm a part of it. Amazing organization. And we're fundraising in the run up to Mental Health Day, World Mental Health Day, which is on October 10th. We're honoring it October 8th. And so you can donate here on YouTube. I am matching all the super chats. I'm matching all the donos that come in between now and next week up to a point. And so I really appreciate your support on that one. We've got 2 weeks of fundraising. We do it once a year. We're going to hit it hard, baby. So if you're feeling generous, I'm going to match everything. And I don't know if you donate on YouTube. Does it let you? That doesn't let you give a message, does it? I was trying to see maybe I could read the dono messages if they're on YouTube, but we'll figure it out. But either way, right, I really want to thank you for your support. And of course, I am a lawyer over at the R&R Law Group. You can find us online, rrlawaz.com. We do free case evaluations. Our mission is to help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope, not only in their cases, but beyond that in their lives. So if you happen to know anybody in Arizona, any type of issue, then of course we can certainly help with that. And so free case evaluations, 480-787-0394. All right. And without any further ado, we'll get into it. Vientica says his internet crashed. Well, hopefully it's not my internet. I think we're still good. All right. So, all right, we're queuing this back up and we're going to say hello to our friends in Florida and check in on Hurricane Ian. Hurricane Ian making landfall in Florida. Media waiting, salivating for some sort of a flub from Ron DeSantis or some area where they can sort of attack him for mismanagement or for malfeasance. And so today we'll take a look at some interesting little clips that have sort of emerged as Ian has made landfall. But first, let's take a look at what the National Hurricane Center tells us about the most recent update. So you can see here, if we check it, it says at 3:05 Eastern time, Ian made landfall, extremely dangerous Category 4 hurricane. This is when it actually made landfall. You can see that's what it looked like when it hit there right around, looks like Cape Coral. And it says that Florida, the minimum pressure was 940 MBs, 150 miles per hour is the wind. Okay, so that's what I really wanted to show you there. 150 miles per hour winds. Now, we're going to take a look at what that looks like and what that sounds like and what that feels like. They have the most recent update. They say at 5 p.m. Eastern, Ian's going to cross the Florida Peninsula, likely bring life-threatening storm surges on Thursday and Friday along the coast of northeastern Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, right? So it's not just Florida. This thing is emerging and going to be really really hitting the entire East Coast. Residents should follow any advice from local officials. And so, of course, you've been seeing a lot of the footage of, this all over the place today. It's sort of, an endless feed of it. And a lot of it is heartbreaking. But we're going to try to avoid, a lot of that. I want to just hit some of the highlights, some of the interesting things that sort of stood out when we were covering this. This clip is important for the audio, the sound of what Hurricane Ian creates when it runs through Florida is something to really consider. Here it is. If you have headphones in, caution. All right, and I turned that down a little bit, but if you do have headphones in, there's some serious bass in there, and you can feel that sort of going through, ransacking, running through the entire Florida coast. Extremely powerful, sort of, causes you to recognize it. If you were standing there, this would not be good. And there's a video of that. This clip is from a webcam that is posted on the Florida coast at 6 feet tall. So it sort of resembles what it would be like if an average height, 6 foot tall or so person were standing there, and what it might feel like when the waves come crashing in. There it comes. And that's not like a jacuzzi. No. That is incredible. At 6 feet, you can see the power behind the water, and it would just be enough to take out essentially anything in its way. So massive damage being done to the Florida coast. We have some satellite footage shows us what the electrical grid looks like up in the clouds. Here's a link over from the NOAA satellite. It says this satellite captured the extraordinary imagery of Hurricane Ian making landfall near Cayo Costa, Florida this afternoon. Here's the latest. And you can see in this GIF that they have rotating around that the eye of the hurricane is there, and there's sort of this light blue sparkling, probably hundreds, thousands over the course of hours of lightning just, exploding all over the place. And it's also happening up on the outskirts, this sort of top right area at the far outskirts of the hurricane. You just see all sorts of lightning there, exploding all over the place. And the hurricane center, of course, noticing that. But there were some gentlemen who were working their way into the hurricane. These guys, while everybody else is trying to get out of the hurricane, these guys are flying into the hurricane. These are storm chasers on board an aircraft flying into it. And this gentleman, we're going to check his Twitter account. He said that this was the craziest storm he's ever flown into. So they're going into Hurricane Ian. And gear, you're going to see, sort of starts flailing all over the place. Those beds just fell out of the... And you can see the panic on his face. Oh no!
There goes the beds. Holy cow!
Oh no! Yeah. Woo! Yeah. So I've been on airplanes that have had a little turbulence before, and a little and you sit there and you say, "Oh gosh, this was so annoying." This is very troubling. Maybe the pilot can get it together up there, right? But these guys are flying into a Category 4 hurricane. Woo! So that is pretty incredible. So, hats off to those gentlemen, and hopefully they stay safe out there. But the lightning was really shocking. There was another screenshot from this guy's Twitter account, Tropical Nick Underwood at the Astro Nick. He was one of the gentlemen in one of those airplanes that we just saw. He said, "I have flown storms for the last 6 years. This flight to Hurricane Ian on Kermit NOAA 42 was the worst I've ever been on. I've never seen so much lightning in an eye," right? And we just saw that lightning. He says, this was the eye. You can see the curvature. Understand, this is at night. This is the light from the lightning at night, right? This is the photograph. This is a nighttime photograph. And my presumption is he's not changing this all that much. Okay, this is what it looks like at night. That's from all of the lightning that we saw. And they're flying into the hurricane. Into the hurricane. Reminds me of Ray Epps. Into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. Everybody on January 6th was saying, that guy's crazy. Nobody wants to go into the Capitol, you psycho lunatic. And the same thing's happening here, essentially. Everybody's not wanting to go into the hurricane, and we have some crazy people who are just flying right into it. So, you know, nature is so funny, isn't it? So we can see some very interesting analogies there, but it is very, very mind-boggling how much power is being gobbled up by Mother Nature and shoved back down Florida. I mean, back down upon Florida, right? It sucks it up into the air. And if you've seen a lot of the footage, it's drawing the water out from the bay, sucking it up, and then it's going to lay it all over there in Florida. And so you can see this gentleman on the Weather Channel. He's out reporting on the storm, and the winds take him off his feet.
Styrofoam and things like that that are like underneath the roofing, maybe in the roof. It just came flying by.
Oh!
All right, you know what?
Enough.
I think I'm just going to
Call
come
it.
in here for a second.
Call it. Yeah, call it. We're done. Yeah, enough.
Just give me a second.
Jim, you all right?
That's some serious wind.
You just can't stand up. All right.
Amazing. That's Jim Cantori from the Weather Channel. And you can see he almost gets taken out there by a tree right in the middle of the storm. Not good. But it is extremely powerful, and that's not something to play around with. And you know, these stories are always interesting because they tell everybody you're all going to die if you stay around, and then they send their people out there to get taken out by trees. But very, very powerful. Sometimes you can see these guys sort of kind of faking it. That doesn't look like he's faking too much right there at all. That looks like a very serious storm coming through there. And he is hopefully doing okay surviving the hurricane. So big storm updates, and it's going to continue to be something we'll follow throughout the rest of the week. Of course, this is going to go into the weekend, they're saying, as it merges, goes across the Florida Peninsula and then up across the East Coast. Now, meanwhile, the media is doing everything they can to try to make Ron DeSantis look like an incompetent buffoon, like somebody who is mismanaging the entire response, saying, Ron, it's looking like this is going to be a catastrophe for you. I mean, you obviously have no idea what you're doing. How are you so comfortable with your gross incompetence?
FEMA Administrator Chris Wells said today that she acknowledged concerns that Florida, as was said, lacks response to the storm so far, and that
Whoa. Give me a break. That is nonsense. Stop politicizing, okay? Stop it. We declared a state of emergency when this thing wasn't even formed. We've had people in here. You've had counties doing, they've done a lot of hard work. And honestly, you're trying to attack me, I get, but like you're attacking these other people who've worked very hard. And so that's just totally false. I don't think we've ever, certainly since I've been governor, declared a state of emergency this early. We made sure that we were very inclusive with it. We said that there was a lot of uncertainty, and we've worked to make sure the preparations that have been done and all this stuff, you talk to the people at the counties when they've needed something, stuff gets there very quickly because of what Kevin and his team have done.
And you can see in this clip when Ron DeSantis is speaking how much Kevin back here really appreciates that support. You can see it in his head nodding. You can see it in his eye contact. And when Ron DeSantis says, we're the first people, we declared a state of emergency immediately, you even see a head bob from him.
That's just totally.
And it's very powerful, I think, to see Ron DeSantis vouching for his team, saying, look, media, if you want to attack me, no problem at all. But don't you dare attack Kevin. Okay, Kevin's working hard. All these people are working hard to try to stop this from causing a catastrophe all across our state. And so FEMA can say whatever FEMA wants to say, but they have not even picked up the phone, according to the White House. At least Biden hasn't picked up the phone to call Ron DeSantis. And so the media is going to try to bury him on this, but he's pre-butting that, saying not going to fly on his watch. Good for Ron. Ron DeSantis also is confirming, hasn't spoken with Joe Biden. Biden usually calls governors and usually calls other politicians when they are in dire circumstances. It's kind of the thing that the president does. Pick up the phone, call the governor. Do you need anything? You don't generally call the mayors, because the mayors call the governors when it's a statewide catastrophe, and the governor calls the president. That's the hierarchy. That's why you become the president. But Ron DeSantis has not gotten that phone call from Joe Biden, only from FEMA.
As Ian approaches.
So I have not personally spoken with the president, but FEMA has approved our pre-landfall request. We've had Gracia here really since the weekend. Gracia's been here. She's always around here. And so we feel like we have a good relationship with FEMA. I'm happy to brief the president if he's interested in hearing what we're doing in Florida. My view on all this is you got people's lives at stake. You got their property at stake. And we don't have time for pettiness. We got to work together to make sure we're doing the best job for them. So my phone line is open, and we're happy. But we do appreciate the quick approval of the pre-landfall declaration.
And it's just a phone call. Just pick it up. Hey, Ron, I really don't like you at all. This is Joe Biden, by the way. I really don't like you. You're probably going to crush our party if you run for president, or Trump's going to crush our party and you'll run with him. And but do you need anything? No? Great. Hang up the phone. At least you made the call. Then Karine can come out and say, he called them. See? Same thing with Kamala. It's like, will you go down to the border just one time? Just one time. Just so we can stop harassing you about it. Just do it. And then everybody will leave you alone. But now they give them a talking point that they're going to be able to milk for all eternity. So you can see not even a simple phone call from the president. Very rude. You call. You always call. Hey, I can't make it. Hey, sorry about your loss. Hey, sorry, Mr. Birthday. Hey, happy anniversary, whatever. What's going on with the hurricane? It's the least you can do, but it doesn't happen out of the Biden administration. So much for unity there. Well, that is the update out of Florida. And so honestly, in all seriousness, we're praying for everybody over there in Florida. I've seen footage of people's homes, cars underwater, and it's just a horrific thing. So if you know anybody out there, if you are out there, we're thinking of you. We're praying for you. Hang tight. And I'm sure that you'll be through this safely, securely, soon enough. But best of luck to you out there. And thank you, everybody out there who is sending your love and your thoughts there as well. All right. And we had some donos come in. Holy moly. The Eric's House annual fundraiser dono has raised $180, which I'm matching. God, I'm going to be broke. These streams are great. Larry also sent a dono in over on Rumble. Thank you very much, Larry. All that's going over to Eric's House. We've got 2 weeks of fundraising. You're going to hear me pushing that hard, baby, because it's all for a good cause. And it really is a good organization. So thank you, everybody who sent in those donos in lieu of those super chats. I really appreciate that. All right. And so we're going to change gears and talk about our president. Oh, gosh. It's not good. Jeff Rook just joined us over on Local. Shout out to Jeff. What's up, John, over there, too? All right, let's get into this. Another Biden brain malfunction. This one a pretty big one. And it's not something that you can sort of ignore when the response is worse than the incident. In this case, Biden made a pretty big flub, but the response to the flub has been even worse. They're trying to paper over it as though nothing happened, and the media is basically enacting a mutiny over there in the press briefing room. And so we've got several clips assembling this whole saga together. But before we take a look at what is exactly going on, we have to understand who Miss Jackie Walorski is. She's a woman who was a congresswoman, and she died in a terrible car accident. Very, very tragic. In fact, the White House talked about this for us, and they published this statement. You can see it here on the screen. They posted this officially about her death. Congresswoman Jackie Walorski of Indiana passed away August 3rd. They just over a month ago. It says, Jill and I are shocked and saddened at the death of Jackie. She died along with 2 members of her staff in a car accident in Indiana. Shocking. Born in her beloved South Bend, daughter of a meat cutter firefighter, spent a lifetime serving in the community she grew up at, nonprofit director, state legislator, eventually a member of Congress, past 9.5 years. I mean, it's really a thoughtful sort of a eulogy here. It says, we may have represented different parties and disagreed on many issues, but she was respected by members of both parties on the Ways and Means committees, on the House Hunger Caucus, co-chair, right, on the House Hunger Caucus, which is, I think, what Joe Biden was appearing at. He says, and my team and I appreciated her partnership as we planned for a historic conference on hunger and nutrition this fall. Oh, I think that was the event they're talking about. Says, we send our deepest condolences to her husband, Dean, and the family of her staff members, Zachary Potts, Emma, and others. Man, it's horrible. Absolutely terrible. And by the way, this is the type of work that we do at Eric's House. At ericshouse.org, this is a tragic death. Okay, Eric's House is dedicated to helping people who've lost somebody to suicide, overdose, or tragic death. Where do you go if that happened? When I lost my brother, didn't have anywhere to go. So my mother, in her brilliance, built a solution. It's called ericshouse.org. It helps people. In this case, right, Jackie's family may have nowhere to go. So they lost their mother, their wife. So horrible thing. And so it's very important that, Joe Biden, since he wrote that statement and he's finally appearing at the event, he's there at the Hunger Nutrition Summit, that he understands that happened. Isn't it pretty important that the president recognizes the passing of Jackie? But he doesn't. This is President Biden at the Hunger, Nutrition, and Health White House Conference, who's remembering the passing, or has forgotten the passing of Jackie, former Congresswoman, and he is musing around during his speech wondering, where's Jackie?
And so many of you know so much about this as well, and you're committed. And I want to thank all of you here for including bipartisan elected officials like Representative Governor, Senator Braun, Senator Booker, Representative Jackie. Are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here. Help make this.
Where's Jackie? No, she's not there, Joe.
Like Representative Governor, Senator Braun, Senator Booker, Representative Jackie. Are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
She wasn't going to be here. Now, you've got many layers that are problematic on this one. Not only is he barely muttering out the sentence, is there something on the teleprompter? I don't know. But not only can he barely say it, he is also referencing a woman who just died recently, August 3rd, early August. Oh, and, this is the president of the United States, by the way, right? They have the presidential podium that he's standing behind. There's a lot of volume and reach behind that. It's a horrific thing. And it's a awful thing for the family. I don't know if the family's sitting there. Is her husband sitting in the audience listening to the president?
You know so much about this as well, and you're committed. And I want to thank all of you here for including bipartisan elected officials like Representative Governor, Senator Braun, Senator Booker, Representative Jackie. Are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
No, Jackie's not going to be there, Joe. And if he had a functional working brain, he would remember that, or somebody on his team would have briefed him about that, or maybe they did brief him about that. Maybe he should have known that, but his brain power, the mechanics, couldn't connect the dots. Pretty big problem, but something you could say, well, it's just, an oversight. It's a mistake. It's something that you explain away. But the White House took a different approach. They didn't call it a mistake. They didn't call it really anything. Karine Jean Pierre is responding to Biden's gaffe, saying that Jackie just, I guess, didn't show up to his most recent speech, saying that it was only because she was just very top of mind. It was just top of mind. Not even a mistake, not even an error, just top of mind.
What happened in the hunger event today? The president appeared to look around the room for an audience member, a member of Congress who passed away last month. He seemed to indicate she might be in the room. What happened there?
So the president was, as you all know, you guys were watching
Yes.
today's event, a very important event on food insecurity. The president was naming the congressional champions on this issue and was acknowledging her incredible work. He had already planned to welcome the Congresswoman's family to the White House on Friday. There will be a bill signing in her honor this coming Friday. So, of course, she was on his mind. She was of top of mind for the president. He very much looks forward to discussing her remarkable legacy of public service with them when he sees her family this coming Friday.
He said, Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? She must not be here.
No, I totally understand. I just explained she was on top of mind.
Okay, so the reporter says, hold on a minute now, okay? It wasn't acknowledging anything. It wasn't saying in memory of Jackie and her tremendous work on this project or anything. He said, where is she? Is she here? Where's Jackie at? And he's the president, and she just died, 2 months ago. So the next question would be, okay, so was he confused? What was the cause of that, Karine? What was the reason that this miscommunication happened in his brain? Was it a problem on the teleprompter? Was he not notified by staff? Is your staff incompetent? Is Biden incompetent, or is the White House incompetent? Is the teleprompter writer wrong, or is Joe Biden just dumb? Did he deviate from the teleprompter? Where is this issue? Because people have concerns that the president might have dementia and he may not be fully competent or cognizant really at all. Top of mind, and it was just an acknowledgement. Not an answer that the media was real thrilled with, and they didn't let it go at that. Another member of the media goes after Karine Jean Pierre and says, hey, Karine, I know you've been asked about this question, but I've got to ask again. And look at this guy's face, the sheer shock that he has that this happened, that the president would be so cold and calloused toward the family of somebody who just died less than 2 months ago.
I'm sorry to have to do this, but I'm compelled to ask you to go one more time back to the question about Congresswoman Walorski.
If you didn't hear that, this guy is saying, I'm sorry that I have to do this, but I feel compelled that I have to bring this up again. The media is not letting this go.
I'm sorry to have to do this, but I'm compelled to ask you to go one more time back to the question about Congresswoman Walorski.
I'm not sure why. Why one more time?
Frankly, honestly, I think the memory of the Congresswoman and history requires some clarity here.
Karine doesn't like it either. Why?
Can you explain where the mistake was made?
Now, I want to pause on this again because, again, you're not seeing this, but if you can hear this in your audio, she says, she does not like this at all. He says, I have to bring it up again because I think her memory is important. And this is, we have to really dig into this. And she says, So just listen one more time because there's a very interesting exchange right here before she goes into her long lost talking points. This is the stuff that really I think is the most interesting.
I'm sorry to have to do this, but I'm compelled to ask you to go one more time back to the question about Congresswoman Walorski.
I'm not sure why. Why one more time?
Frankly, honestly, I think the memory of the Congresswoman and history requires some clarity here. Can you explain where the mistake was made? Was the president confused? Was something written in the teleprompter that he didn't recognize? Can you just help us understand what happened?
I mean, you're jumping to a lot of conclusions. No, but you're. But I hear you, Stephen. I'm answering the question that you're jumping to a lot of conclusions. I just answered the question. If that had been the case, I would have stated that, right? I would clearly have stated what you just laid out. What I had said.
Saying he's jumping to conclusions and he's asking her for her conclusions. Saying, well, I'm not asking you to agree with my conclusions. I'm giving you some examples, Karine, of some conclusions of answers that I would deem acceptable. Teleprompter broke. Joe Biden has dementia, right? We'd accept that one. Somebody told him that she's going to be there and that person is fired now. Okay, he has superpowers and he can see and connect with people on the other side. I don't know. But those are explanations for what happened. The explanation of top of mind is not a good one because it doesn't correlate to what came out of his mouth. Because he said that she should be there and she is no longer with us, unfortunately. So can you please clarify that, Karine? And she says, well, you're jumping to conclusions. Maybe, but we would like for you to give us the actual conclusion.
Is that she was on top of mind.
What?
And that he is going to see her family in just 2 days' time on Friday to honor her work, to honor her legacy, if you will.
Yeah.
I just mentioned this. It's going to be a renaming of a VA clinic in Indiana in her name, and that is what he was thinking of.
So doesn't that make it even more of an egregious mistake? If all this is going on, if it's like, hey, Joe Biden wakes up and he's like, oh gosh, what's on my calendar today? How much nap time am I going to get this week? And Jill, his caretaker, says, oh yeah, we have a congresswoman. We've got to go sign this we're meeting with the family. We're doing this on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So make sure that, you take your meds on those days. He's got all of that out there. She was so involved and they're honoring her memory so much. Isn't it that much more insane that he forgot all about that? He's just woke up. Where is Jackie, by the way? Yeah, we haven't seen her in a couple months. Where's she been?
Was thinking about her as he was naming out and calling out the congressional champions on this issue, on this really critical issue that's going to help millions of Americans. And that is what the president was focused on.
Would you be prepared to release the prepared remarks that the president had in teleprompter just so we can understand?
I'm not understanding why that would be necessary. We always share the remarks that the president had, even delivered. That's probably going to be up on the website. Not really sure what that has to do with anything. I just answered the question about her being on top of mind. I don't think that's unusual. I feel like many of us have gone through that particular time where someone is on top of mind and you call them out. And you mention them, especially in this type of context.
Yeah, but you don't mistake them being alive or dead. Yes, we do that all the time. You go, hey, what's his name? What's his name? What's his name? Oh yeah, Billy, right? And you go, oh yeah, okay, that guy. You go, what it comes to me, or I'm mistaken or something, or you generally don't make the mistake about a person who is living or dead, generally.
If you think about how he's going to see the family in 2 days, if you think about how when he sees them in 2 days, it's going to be for such an important moment.
We do understand.
Signing a piece of legislation that's going to rename
honoring her death,
in her state, that's important. If you think about this issue and how important this issue is, and he was, again, calling out the congressional champions for this particular issue.
Okay, so that's their explanation. Top of mind. Good enough for Joe Biden to escape additional oversight? The media says no. The media wants more. They say, all right, Karine, we have already tried twice before. We've been respectful, but we need answers on this because we're not getting it from you. For the third or fourth time during the press briefing, we have another question about this, finally, for the sake of some clarity.
Particular question.
Just to try one more time.
One more time.
Does the president believe that in his reference to the late Representative Jackie Walorski, who you have said from the podium numerous times he respects the work that she has done,
respects her,
meeting with her family to honor her work, does he believe that he handled that reference appropriately, or is this something that he would like to get back?
Get like to get back what?
Get back what? What?
He said, where is Jackie?
Look, I know this is a question that
Third
many
time.
of you have had. I've answered it multiple times already.
No, you have not. No, you have not.
And my answer is certainly not going to change. All of you may have views on how I'm answering it, but I am answering the question to the way that he saw it and the way that we see it. We have to remember as well is that, this was an important event today. This was an event about food security. This was an event about how we're going to take the steps to get to eradicate hunger.
Oh, here we go. You see, this is what we call the old dodge and pivot.
That is something that the president takes very personally. That is something that we wouldn't be doing this event. That
we don't want to
not
talk about
his
horrific gaffe. We'd rather just talk about all this.
Occurred at the White House. So clearly, this is something that is important.
It's very important to him.
And, this was a remarkable legacy that she had, and we should be honoring that. I'm going to go.
Now, the media tries 3 times to get answers on this. What was the cause of the error? We call this root cause analysis in the law, especially when we're talking about DUIs. If a DUI machine breaks, you don't just say, well, let me just get in there and adjust the knob on the thing. You got to pull the whole thing out, do what's called a root cause analysis, and figure out what the problem is. Same thing applies here. Hey, what is the problem with Joe Biden? Why is he not able to remember that a congresswoman who got killed in a car accident, somebody that was very important in the United States government, doesn't happen all that frequently, is now dead? The president issued a statement about it from the White House acknowledging and commemorating her death. And they have been planning, it sounds like, for all sorts of activities to honor Jackie, including the signing of bills and meeting with the family and all sorts of stuff. So, Karine, we need answers. What caused this mistake? Why did Joe Biden think she was alive when she is clearly not? The media tried 3 times to get answers on this question. And when Karine said, I've had enough of you people and moved on, listen to the background, listen to the media crying foul, saying this is not something that we can just let go, right? This is not something you get to gloss over.
Karine, I have John Lennon top of mind just about every day, but I'm not looking around for him anywhere.
When you sign a bill for John Lennon as president, then we can have this conversation. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just apologize. These moments of confusion are happening with the race.
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
Americans are watching this and are
Listen.
having concerns. What do you say to that? This is a legitimate question. We need to have some answers.
At the end of the year, what can you tell us about
I'm sorry, somebody was yelling over you, so go ahead.
There are reports that Treasury Secretary Yellen is looking to leave.
It is not your turn to speak, and you're being rude to your colleagues, and let your colleague answer the question. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, you're yelling and over your colleague. So that is incredibly rude. So can you, go ahead. Go ahead.
There are reports that Treasury Secretary Yellen is looking to leave the administration.
No answers. The media after her like a pack of rabid wolves. You can hear multiple different lines in there from all the different media personalities saying, hey, this is happening more frequently. We're seeing this more and more. These are bigger and bigger issues. We're now talking about people who are living or dead. Does he know what day it is? Does he know what year it is the question. And Karine, look at that face right there. She's not happy with those. She's giving them that little look down the brow, that furrowed brow. You're being very rude to your colleagues over there. you better shape up before I don't answer your question again tomorrow. So that's Karine. And very interesting little reaction there from the media, finally asking some hard questions about Joe Biden's mental capacity. And if you had any doubts about Joe Biden's capacity, here is yet another clip. After speaking in front of the White House today, President Biden once again doesn't know where to go. And so his caretaker wife, Dr. Jill, who is a doctor, which is very convenient if you're a caretaker, is going to be showing him yet again where to go because he just doesn't know. Don't clap into the microphone, Jill. Got to go down this way. He looks around. Where? Over there? This young gentleman is put in place to block the president. You're blocked. Go over there and make sure the other guy goes the other way. So here it is again. Listen to Jill. You go this way. He just doesn't know. All right. But hey, at least they have this young man who's a blocker because there's been other block. Okay, there. Good job. All right. Good job. Very important. Make sure that Joe Biden makes it where he needs to go. And so our poor president is, we've said many times here, the subject of what would in many instances be criminal elder abuse for taking a person who doesn't know where they where they're at and exploiting their power. If you brought Joe Biden's case into a judge and you said, Hunter Biden is trying to get his dad to give him a bunch of money, the judge would say, what? This is ridiculous. Hunter Biden, that's insane. Somebody should step in and do something about this, and this would never be allowed to happen. But because he's the president, nobody cares, I guess. And Hunter Biden can do whatever he wants. And everybody can just exploit the guy. And he doesn't even know where he is or who's alive or dead. That's our president. He's running the country. All right, we're going to continue to follow. Thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, and thank you for following this show. I'm grateful for your support, and thank you for the donos that are coming in over at Eric's house. Oh my goodness, we're up to $200 over there. This is outstanding. My mom's going to be so happy and excited about it. They do great work over there, and I'm grateful for that. Remember, I'm matching all donos that are coming in. That all of it's going over to Eric's house. I'm matching it all. So thank you for that. All right, and we've got one final segment here today to wrap up the show before we jump into your questions and your comments. What's up, YouTube? What's up, Shane? What's up, Tony? Tony's Oprano says, where's the trolls at? We've got Adam M says, make Rob poor again. Yeah, these shows are costing me a lot of money, but it's all for a good cause. It's okay. Hey, if I got to eat, beans and rice for a couple weeks, that's okay. No problem at all. What's up, Lean? What's up, Shane? What's up, Vientikis? What's up, Cool Guy? What's up, Matt Gamble? What's up, Robin Stewart? What's up, Anything over on Rumble? Annie, get your gun. And I see over on Locals. What's up, Bonnie? C. Reed. Sousin. Savvy Sue says Joe. Joe says, squirrel, squirrel. That's true. All right, we got one final segment to get into today. Vientikis says you'll eat the bugs. Never doing it. All right, and let's get into this, my friends. Donald Trump has made an offer to the world. He will bring peace, a new fruitful era upon us with a new offer to negotiate, to put an end once and for all to all this Russia-Ukraine collusion, all this hoaxing, all this problematic, nefarious activity taking place all across the world. And we're going to get into that today. He posted on True Social. We have updates on what happened with Nord Stream, which is what Donald Trump is responding to. Here's what he said on Truth. He said, U.S. leadership should remain cool, calm, and dry on the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline, saying, take it easy, everybody. Says this is a big event that should not entail a big solution, at least not yet. The Russia-Ukraine catastrophe should never have happened and would definitely not have happened if I were president. Do not make matters worse with a pipeline blowup. Be strategic. Be smart. Parentheses, brilliant. Exclamation point. Get a negotiated deal done now. Both sides need it and want it. The entire world is at stake. I will head the group? Question mark, question mark, question mark. From Donald Trump. Wow, amazing. And so Donald Trump has an actual history of negotiating peace deals. We know that he did one previously in the Middle East. And so people are saying to themselves, oh yeah, maybe there should be some sort of negotiated settlement, some sort of negotiated outcome on this. And we talked about that on our morning walk and talk for members, either on YouTube or at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Are there conversations about a settlement? We haven't heard much of that. We've heard sort of it's either total victory for either side. And of course, a victory that is total for either side means that it is a total loss for the other side. And one of those sides has nuclear weapons, and one of those sides has threatened to use them. And so we've been asking ourselves, what is going on? Who was responsible for the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines? Who was responsible for the bombings, the explosions? There have been multiple countries now that have come out and said that it wasn't something that happened naturally. It wasn't a boat anchor that was dragging across the bottom of the Baltic Sea. No, it looks like it was intentional. It looks like it was done by a nation state, some nation state with enough capacity to get out there and actually move a submarine around and have a team execute an operation like this. And so while the world is speculating about who may be responsible for the bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline, we're turning our attention over to the United States because Joe Biden had said previously that he was going to ensure, one way or another, that the Nord Stream pipelines would not move forward if Russia invaded. Similar statement came out from Victoria Nuland, out from the State Department. This is Antony Blinken, the United States Secretary of State, responding to the explosions on the Nord Stream pipeline, saying, we're still investigating all of this and we'll let you know what we find.
On the question on energy security and Nord Stream in particular, a few things. The leaks are under investigation. There are initial reports indicating that this may be the result of an attack or some kind of sabotage, but these are initial reports and we haven't confirmed that yet. But if it is confirmed, that's clearly in no one's interest. My understanding is the leaks will not have a significant impact on Europe's energy resilience. And what's critical is that we are working day in, day out, both on a short-term basis and a long-term basis, to address energy security for Europe and for that matter around the world.
So he says that they are still investigating this, and once they get to the bottom of it, they'll let us know. But a very interesting question came up about interests and whose interests are at stake, who might have a benefit of seeing these pipelines destroyed, who might gain and who might lose. And Antony Blinken said, well, the U.S. apparently doesn't have any interests. He said, if this did happen, it would be in nobody's interests. But I'm not so sure that's accurate, because as we heard previously, Joe Biden has said that he wanted the pipeline stopped if Russia invaded. Victoria Nuland said the same thing. So apparently some people have some interest in making sure that it doesn't move forward. But who might that be? Well, we don't know, but we do know that there was another pipeline that seems like it was a competing pipeline that opened basically the same day that the Nord Stream pipelines were bombed. This story comes out from Euronews. You can see they're reporting that the Baltic pipe, the Norway-Poland gas pipeline, opens in a key move to cut dependency on Russia. This story posted September 27, 2022, which is literally the day that one of the pipelines got bombed. So this pipeline is opening the same day that another competing pipeline that caused dependency on Russia explodes. I wonder whose interest those might be in. Leaders from Poland, Norway, and Denmark have attended a ceremony to mark the opening of a new Baltic pipe, a key stage in the drive to wean Poland and Europe off Russian gas. Okay, and you may think or believe or have the position that all of that is a good thing, and maybe it's needed, and that Russia should not have a stranglehold or any leverage over Europe on natural gas or any energy. And I wouldn't even disagree with you on that. But it's very convenient when these pipelines start exploding and we don't know who's taking responsibility for them, and certain members of the European Parliament are pointing their fingers at the United States. It'd be very interesting to know if that is accurate or not. It would behoove the United States government and citizens to know, is our government getting us into a war with Russia by bombing their pipelines, for example? It might be good to know, because we may have a problem with that if that is in fact the case. The pipeline, the new one, is now going to transport natural gas from Norway to Denmark through the Baltic Sea to Poland. It's a centerpiece of the Polish strategy to diversify away from Russia. Going to fill it with liquefied gas terminals central to Poland's plan, and it's working its way all the way through. And when they were celebrating the execution of this pipeline, they were celebrating, and they were specifically celebrating the end of a Russian era. This is a pipeline executive celebrating the Baltic pipeline that was just inaugurated the same day that the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was blown up.
In a move that Europe hopes will ease its energy crisis, leaders have inaugurated a new pipeline delivering gas from Norway to Poland. The Polish Prime Minister was joined by counterparts from Denmark and Norway, as well as EU representatives. It comes at a convenient time, as Europe is trying desperately to find new energy sources, and after Denmark and Sweden's discovery of a massive leak on the Nord Stream pipeline.
Today we are entering a new era, an era of energy sovereignty, of energy freedom, and of enhanced security. One of energy security, and also of security in the broader sense of the word.
This completion comes at a time of Russia's brutal war against Ukraine and Russia's manipulation of gas supplies to destabilize our energy market and our economies. So today, we in Europe together are sending a powerful message that Russia will not succeed.
Well, there you go. So the project, you can see it's going looks like it goes into Poland, across the sea, neighboring Germany. And it's very convenient because the Nord Stream pipeline sort of runs perpendicular from Russia down this direction into Germany. Now, the Nord Stream is not on this graph, but if you're following the mouse, you can see it sort of intersects the two. So it's sort of another way into mainland Europe, and very convenient that one of their biggest competitors, pipelines, get to become exploded. Trump offers to settle this all down because it starts to feel a little bit escalatory. We're starting to wonder, is this, an allied versus Axis sort of attack? Why would the Russians be bombing their own pipeline that gives them the most leverage in this entire saga? Why would they do that? Well, we don't know. But Trump is offering to negotiate. Jake Sullivan, over as the national security advisor to the Biden administration, gets asked about a potential resolution. We have NBC News asking him, is it possible that we can maybe settle this whole debate, this war between Russia and Ukraine? Because things are escalating pretty rapidly. We know that Putin has threatened to use nuclear bombs. We know that Europe is in for a very significant energy crunch this winter. Supply chains around the world are wrecked. They're saying food shortages are going to be escalating as time continues because of the compounding effects of not being able to plant and harvest in a war zone. Can we settle this? Because if it's all or nothing, if it's a 100% victory for Ukraine means a 100% loss for Russia, that may be unacceptable for them. And vice versa. Would a 100% victory for Russia be acceptable to Ukraine? Of course not. But is anybody even talking about a remedy, some sort of a settlement negotiated to stop all of this? Or is it being proffered forward because people already have an end game in mind? And is there going to be an opportunity to solve this? We don't know. Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, weighs in.
Point. At the same time, he's clearly being seen by many as a war criminal. How do you end a war diplomatically with somebody who is a war criminal and I guess who many people believe has lost his legitimacy, though can you not say that until this war ends?
Look, President Biden has not minced his words, as you've seen, about Vladimir Putin and his complicity in the war crimes that have been committed in Ukraine, the atrocities that have been committed in Ukraine. One man chose this war. One man is directing this war. One man is responsible for this war. That man is Vladimir Putin. Now, at the same time, it's not just the German chancellor who has indicated that diplomacy has got to remain on the table. President Zelensky of Ukraine has said before that ultimately, at the end of the day, this war has to end diplomatically. But we have been equally clear, and you heard this from the German chancellor, there's got to be justice. Right. There has to be accountability. And we need to work with the Ukrainians and the international community to bring accountability for the war crimes and atrocities that have taken place. We will not rest until we have done that. That is not an easy feat with a country like Russia, but it is not something we will shy away from.
Okay, so what I take out of that was an initial statement that, Germany wants to see a settlement, and Zelensky even wants to see settlement, and we're all talking about negotiated peace, but only a peace that says that Putin is a war criminal and he is dissolved of everything, right? In other words, it is a settlement that would absolutely never be acceptable to Putin, right? Holding him accountable in international court. And you may say all of that is justified, right? All of it. And you very well may be right. But my point is, in order to bring old Pooty Poo to the table and to get him to sit down, it's a non-starter to a negotiation to say, okay, here's the deal, Putin. We're going to end this war and you're going to get some here, you're going to get some of this and all this stuff, but you're going to be tried in the International Criminal Court and you're going to be thrown out of your dictatorship position and you're going to go to prison for all of your war crimes. No go, right? So it sounds like they're saying, no, we are willing to talk and come to a peace, but not really, because our terms are so unacceptable. It sort of means that there will never be a resolution. And that's Jake Sullivan. He is from Oxford, and he is way, way smarter than me. So maybe he knows what he's doing. Only time will tell. But that's the update on the negotiated peace settlement, a very charitable offer from Donald Trump. It just solved this whole thing. Hey, just solve it. Just call over there and say, hey, Putin, hey, Zelensky, hey, figure this whole thing out. Maybe it'll happen one day. We'll have to wait and see. But that, my friends, is it for the show in terms of our segments. We now need to hear from you and see what you have to say over from our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And we've got some Rumble rants that came in. Alan Harkin says, once again, very informative. Says, here, let's pull up Alan Harkin on the screen here. Alan Harkin says, once again, very informative. He didn't say very. I don't want to AOC the quote here. Once again, an informative, enjoyable ride listening to your reviews. Wit, humor, and smarts are seldom seen all wrapped in one. Good work. Well, thank you, Alan. I don't know if I can agree with that, but I appreciate it. I sometimes I can get 1 of 3, and if I hit 1 of 3, that's good, I guess. But thank you, Alan. Very generous. Remember, I'm matching all donos. They're all going over to ericshouse.org, and so I appreciate that. Let's see what else we had. Those came over from Rumble, and I want to see if I can, let's see what YouTube has here. We're going to do a refresh over on YouTube so I can see some of these dono fund. Oh my goodness! We got $335. Oh my goodness. I'm going to be so broke. All right. Now I can't see the details. Here is what it looks like on my end. All right. So I'm not sure if I can see, I'm sure sort of after this that I'll be able to see the donations. It'll probably give me a breakdown or something, but I can't see the individual donations at the moment. But my goodness, thank you to everybody. Now I think all of this is going over directly to Eric's house. And so hopefully you get some good feedback from the Eric's House team. They're going to process this and say thank you and all of that stuff. But thank you, everybody, for those. All right, let's see what else we had. Oh, my goodness. We had some more coming in over from... Oh, John McGarvey over here on Locals. Before we get into the Locals comments, says, John McGarvey sent another $50 dono over to Eric's House. Says, inspirational quote. That's from John McGarvey. Very generous, John. Thank you for that. And there was another couple that came in yesterday. We had one from John McGarvey yesterday, sent in a dono to Eric's house, said 2 times Tuesday, and Vientikis sent in a dono and also sent in some info on Nick yesterday. So thank you to Vientikis and John McGarvey. Those came in yesterday. Yeah, Nick apparently got suspended on Twitter. Twitter employees are helping in the harassment of others. Oh my gosh. I've seen some of this drama. And I have not been paying attention to it because, well, it's, other people are covering it. But certainly, this online warfare is ridiculous. And so hopefully you're following Nick. Or I think he's at recadalaw.locals.com. So make sure you're following him over there because the battle continues. All right. And so thank you for those. Those came in yesterday. We also have some comments that we've got to attend to after we get through the Locals comments today. But we're doing a refresh on some of the Locals comments, and we may be a little bit light on the comments today, which is okay because we have some from yesterday. Hey, Cheryl's in the house. Cheryl says, a hickory-horned devil. What on earth is this little creature? All right, so here, not poisonous, 5.5 inches long. What are we talking about? 48 years here, I've never seen one. What are we talking about, Cheryl? Had to share. My New York grandson doesn't have much exposure to interesting critters. I have pet snakes, always looking for anything. Sparks his imagination and expands his knowledge. Here we are. Some compare him to a hot dog with an attitude, but no chance of causing an injury. He was impressive. That is an amazing thing. Oh my goodness. Look how, my goodness. Look at the colors, the orange and the green. That is a cool creature. I have not seen anything like that either. We're talking about caterpillars here. Thank you, Cheryl, for sharing it. And I hope that your grandson enjoyed that because it's nature. Honestly, sometimes I take a look at things like this. I think we're living in a fake reality. It's like weird. It's like like you look at the movie Avatar, right? And you look around and they have all these weird fictional things and all these, flying, all this stuff. But look at this. Look at this creature. It's like, it's like an Avatar creature. Crazy. The world is honestly just a giant miracle. All right. We have Vientika says, okay, so yesterday Rumble went down before your stream went down. Yeah. So then I think it was Restream. Because Restream, so I port all my stuff into Restream, comes all out of my house into Restream, and then it goes from Restream to YouTube, and then from Restream to Rumble. So I think it was Restream that probably broke between Restream and Rumble, and then Restream and YouTube. Because I checked I checked all my stuff afterwards, and I don't think it was on my end. So blame Restream, and there's like no answer to it, right? Did you guys break? They say no, everything's fine. Sure. Former says, I suggested this 2 weeks ago on Fakebook. Why won't anybody listen to me? Should Biden appoint former President POTUS Trump as a peace envoy to solve this? He's had success in the past. I think you did say that. I think you said that here, Former, didn't you? Somebody said that here. Somebody said, yeah, maybe Trump can solve this. And yeah, remember, because he did the Abraham Accords, or the Abram Accords. Vientikis writes, isn't it funny how Captain Jaundice was supposed to bring around World War III? Talking about Trump. But he's basically saying, cool your jets, Maverick, before you get goose killed. Even before he took office, he was criticizing Obama, saying we should pull out of wars. But in office, he brought in all the same warmongers and how many bombs were dropped on his orders. So, On a totally unrelated note, like how the apparent, quote, leader of the revolution in Iran has had her picture taken shaking hands with Mike Pompeo, saying everything is a damn psyop. Even your polo shirts. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how the polo shirts could be, but it's probably true. I'm not sure. I'll have to think about that one. But yeah, I've talked to people who've said everything is fake, everything. And there's probably some truth to that. Former LEO says, I hope that all of Florida residents have gotten certain, the president said that certain things were very important in hurricane season. And so consult with your doctor. Let's see. Jason on Blast in CA says, glad you're still alive. I was worried last night at the end of the show that the hurricane might have slid through a dimensional portal and began to impact Scottsdale. Or if the FBI was raiding your home. You did vote for Trump and tell the truth after all. Or that the IRS came to your door with your weapons drawn and that they might be willing to use deadly force now at the IRS. Or even that you might have been actively censored live everywhere at once. I was super concerned. Thankfully, however, I was a member of Watching the Watchers. My worst fears were allayed with relieving early morning walk and talk video. Whew, that was a close one. That's true. It was a close call. If I hadn't gotten my daily hit of robbing the community and our community, I have no idea what I would do to satiate my intellectual hunger. Welcome back from across the fruited and some really dry and dead on others on fire plains from Northern California. Thank you for giving us your daily dose of intellectual stimulation with such dependability. Your dedication and work ethic is something to be admired. US. Well, thank you for that. That is a great comment from Jason. And Jason, yeah, in Northern California, hopefully the fires aren't too bad out there. But yes, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty yesterday on the program. And it's, it happens from time to time, but it's just a short time until we get those morning walk and talks. And they are a lot of fun. I read the comments and it's nice to sort of connect with everybody to start the day. So it's fun. And thank you for joining us and being there and for being so supportive and such a great member, Jason. I really do appreciate it. Former says, I thought that Blinken was going to address the DOJ and the FBI leaks. I don't know if I saw that today. There was a ton of stuff going on today. C-SPAN was full. There was a lot of stuff on the docket. I think there's some Senate and maybe some House hearings. I think maybe tomorrow. There's a lot of stuff going on. Jeff Rook says, I'll be hopping off and on and posting some 2 to 5 minute video updates just north of Tampa if anyone wants a look. I saw one of those, Jeff, right before the show started. I didn't watch it, but I saw something that you posted right before the show started. So he's posting those over on our locals community. Says, want to get this in before I possibly lose power. My car was towed at 2:30 a.m. yesterday from a mandatory evac zone, designated such due to 9 to 11 foot storm surge projections. Ugh. In your studies and practice, do you have any insight you can offer for things like this during emergency situations? Honestly, no. I mean, nothing. nothing outside of the foundational stuff, which is to think calmly, think clearly, stay safe, right? Follow the recommendations of, I would say, the officials. But in terms of legal expertise, hopefully you're not running into any situations where there is urgent need for legal advice in any one of these situations. But again, I'm an Arizona lawyer, right? We don't have national emergencies at all, other than the border, which is kind of an ongoing national emergency, but certainly not hurricane situations or anything like that. I'm blessed enough that I had family in the area to help get me out while everyone I've mentioned it reacts to a near or total outrage. I'm curious how the legal system views actions like this in declared emergency situations. Well, I mean, it's a general rule. The legal system is extreme, in my experience, has been extremely, I guess this is maybe what you're asking, forgiving, right? Extremely forgiving in these situations, meaning, missed court dates, fines, prosecutions, all sorts of stuff really will be waived, and people will be given the benefit of the doubt in many ways, because the courts recognize what a catastrophe this is. Judges and prosecutors, they really often help in these situations. So I think that if any of that applies to you, you're going to be okay. Here, Vientica says a pet owner's guide to hurricanes. Cat 1 is 70 to 94. Cat 3, yeah, that cat is. Cat 5 is 157 miles or high. Those cats are just up in the sky, as you can see. Yeah, the category 1, cat's like slightly annoyed. Cat number 2 is like getting slightly concerned. Cat number 3 is recognizing there's a problem. Cat number 4 is looking for serious alternatives, and cat number 5, they're just, they're up in the air. So you can see, yeah, pretty good one there. Thank you, V. Here, this one came in from Savvy Sue. Says, Adam Krigler just posted this on his stream, thought it was interesting. Mr. Climate Change dans le Mans said the storms were getting worse, but doesn't really look like it. 4 hurricanes have made continental U.S. landfall with max winds over 155. And every one of them looks like preceding Hurricane Ian had faster winds, dating back to 1935. Labor Day, 185 miles per hour back then. 1969, 175 miles, Hurricane Camille. Andrew, 165 miles per hour, 1992. Michael in 2018, 160 miles per hour. So dans les Mans is not all that accurate, is he? Rai T says the hurricane looks roughly the size of England. It really is mind-boggling, right? It's basically covering the whole state of Florida. I can't imagine a storm the size of my entire country. That is wild, wild, wild. I mean, it's hard to understand it. Not like your state, the entire country. It's crazy. Yeah, saying, Jeff Rook says, we made a deal with the devil to be called the Sunshine State. Doesn't apply all the time. Rai T says, your impression of Biden ringing DeSantis was terrible. I could actually understand what you were saying. It's true. I'm Joe Biden. I can't even do it. I can't even slur as bad as him. Emotional old cat lady says Jackie is probably haunting him, so he thought she was there. His short-term memory is getting worse. Ugh. I hope that's not the case. Aggie Martin says, my wife has a theory that those that are getting close to going can see their friends on the other side. Ugh. Okay, this is getting there. That's some talk. Those are some interesting talks. And hey, there are some tickets at ericshouse.org if you donate, I think, for a reading with Melinda Vale. I don't know if those are still available or not, but you can check and see. All right, here we had a couple drops. Who's this from? Fed Cure. Says, yeah, Rob, Patriots and friends, for the love of God, I've only been back in South Florida a few days after rotating out of D.C., and it's feeling like the swamp is following me. Ivan hit exactly where we had a home off of the Intercoastal Waterway and a ranch 35 years ago. If they were both today, they'd be underwater to the roofs. Unbelievable. Imagine that. After having all the properties all that time, everything paid off, kicking back, enjoying the fruits of your labor, all washed away when Ivan came ashore, 3:05 p.m., winds at 150 miles per hour. It breaks my heart. Like it breaks my heart. It says, damn, at the start of this 2-minute video, we'd be looking across a little Gasparilla Isla. This was our home. It says Boca Grande, Florida is a beach home, white fence, home of Bush. I got stranded at that spot. Secret Service surrounded us with their Glocks. Is this from multiple cams in Florida. All right, so check out those videos. We've got more that we may post in a bit. Says it's good to be back. Hope you're hanging in there, FedCure. Says ciao. Praying for all the folks being devastated by Ivan. We're doing the same thing here too. So check out those videos if you want to know more from FedCure. But thanks for being here, FedCure. Let's see what else we've got. A couple more coming in. Vientikis says, watching Biden is like watching my grandfather in his final years, except that Biden never pulled a man out from underneath a tank. Also, my grandfather never lied about his education. Since we're on Biden, this video has been making the rounds. Yeah, this was after Biden. I saw this one. I'm not going to play it because of medical info. But he talks about preparing for a hurricane by making sure that your medical records are up to date. Even in this context, the most important thing is vaccines, really? Not food, not water, not radio, candles, a flashlight, or no, V, none of that stuff. It is only whether he doesn't get paid for that, right? Nobody gets paid if you buy radios and candles. Jeff says, have to say the best illustration of Floridians is that people while around the country are worried about Ian. I just hear a surprising number of cars driving around like normal. It's funny. I was thinking that, Jeff. I'm like, I probably sound like a hysterical person, you know, because I'm in Arizona. Like if it rains for like over 20 minutes consistently, it's basically a state emergency here. 20 minutes of consistent rain. It's like, not good. Where everybody melts down. So to me, a hurricane the size of a country of England coming across a state is like, holy moly, I can't even fathom it. We get a cumulonimbus cloud over there and everybody's like, oh my gosh, we should probably cancel our meetings for the day. Huh. Here, emotional old cat lady says, did my part, make Rob poor. My reward, see you give Trumpy Bear a hug. Thank you for supporting Eric's house. Okay, I can definitely do that. It's not going to be a thing. This is the one and only of these emotional old cat lady. Here he is. Come over here, Trumpy Bear. We want to have a hug for the nice, emotional old cat lady saying thank you for our donation over to Eric's house. All right, thank you for that. And thank you to Zach Nichols for our newest member of the Watching the Watchers community. Shout out to Trumpy Bear in the house. All right, and so I'm very grateful for that emotional old cat lady. You know, I'm not a big hugger, but I will do that from time to time. I do love the Trumpy Bear. He's very comfortable. And he's got the hair. So thank you for that one. Savvy Sue says, no, we're going to make it a thing. Oh, great. Robute says, yeah, Russia totally destroyed their own pipeline when they could shut off the pipeline to screw over Europe. Yeah, right. It's like their only leverage on the whole thing. It's like this only leverage. Also, I wonder how much gas can Norway deliver via this pipeline because Russia has the largest natural gas reserves compared to Norway. Right. Is the new pipeline going to take out the old pipeline? You know, I don't know. Here we have Robute says, isn't it weird that the EU leaders seem so immature when they complain that Russia is using natural gas as a weapon when they tried to sanction Russia into oblivion? Yes. I think that it is kind of foolish. It's like, hey, you sanctioned all of their economy and you don't expect them to respond in kind? Robute says, well, it is a bit hard to drag Putin into international criminal court when Russia has 6,500 nukes. Remember, how does the state drag people into court? Is via violence, and that is difficult because Putin going into international court means invading Russia, and then suddenly that is World War III. Yeah, not good. Doesn't look good if that, right? And that is a non-starter for Russia. They're just not going to even think about negotiating on those terms. Another one came in from It's Jake from Oxford. He's here, the smartest man. Says, Rob, the only justice is our justice. Oh my gosh, that's like poetry almost. The only justice is our justice. Brilliant. That's like Oxford English right there. Tell everyone not to worry. We are getting the FBI on the case. Oh, perfect. They're going to figure out who's behind the raid. They will have Putin raided in no time at all. Also, I do not have cancer, nor do I have an alien-shaped head. I'm tired of people saying this. Okay, well, thank you we'll take note of that, Jake. Everybody mark down in your notepads. Jake cancer patient does not have an alien-shaped head. Got it. All right, we have former LEO. He says, the reality is that the Russia-Ukraine war was forced to a boiling point by NATO backing Russia into a corner by expanding their reach. ICBMs on Cuba because I remember the response of the USA. Another interesting comment. Good perspective there from former LEO. A lot of people have said that. You know, a lot of people believe that they're... Oh my gosh. V, I can't put that on YouTube. Okay, let's see. I mean, I could probably put the top half of that on YouTube. I think we can get away with that. Actually, I don't think we can. I think that image is banned on YouTube. I think I've seen that. Here, Vientika says, speaking of nature, grow your own food. Oh yeah, V, are those potato sacks? I forgot about your potato sacks. It has been recommended to me that I start gardening because I'm not, apparently I'm not zen enough, which is true. We got to calm down, Rob. Start gardening. All right, probably should do that. Robute says, the U.S. calling Vladimir Putin a war criminal is the pot calling the kettle black. Just remember that the U.S. invaded Iraq and Afghanistan, destroying both countries, and was George W. Bush held accountable? No. And was Barack Obama, when he bombed Libya? They're now open slave markets over there. Good comment from Robute. Speech Unleashed says, shoot, I overslept and missed most of the show. Speech, we missed you. I should have hit your alarm bell for you. Just wanted to know if you've covered that fentanyl is being disguised to look like real candy. They're even packaged as such. I posted the story on Locals. No, I have not covered that. You know, I really haven't sort of found a way to work it into a segment, but I did see it. Although I did not see this image. Like they're shoving it into candy wrappers? What? That's not good at all. Yeah, that's not good at all. What? Okay, so I didn't know that, but I knew that there were colored fentanyl pills, but I didn't know that they were sort of put into Nerd packets or Skittles packets. Not good. Thank you, Speech, for communicating that. Everybody out there, man, my goodness. And, you know, like we sort of joked about that. Remember when you were a kid and your parents are like, check your candy, like open up your, you know, see if somebody put a needle in there or put razor blades in there. I never really understood it, but we didn't have fentanyl candy colored candy back then. Former says, Blinky was speaking about the pipeline leaks. Yes, he was. Facts Matter says, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I miss Jake from Oxford. Did he quit us? No, he's here, Facts Matter. He's here. And Facts Matter, thank you very much for that Eric's House dono. I saw that one come in after the fact. Facts Matter sent in a very nice dono to Eric's House, I think on the Monday show. Thank you for that, Facts. Jake, I know Jake's, you know, hopefully we don't offend him and he doesn't run away and I'll go hang out with some other more bougie people. It's nice that he stops by from time to time. V says, someone in the chat mentioned Assange when talking about Pompeo. For anyone that's in the UK, don't forget October 8th. Does he have an appeal or something going on that day? I have his US docket on my favorites. So as soon as there's an update on the Assange docket here in the United States, at least the federal public docket, I should see it. But he's at warrant status, right? The US they have nothing happening because he's not in custody. Rai T says, oh, hey, you can see profile pictures now. How'd you fix it? So I basically followed your guidance, Rai T. You fixed it. You said, hey, dum-dum, you just used the native Google, the native locals dark mode, and then turn off your Chrome. This is actually the Edge browser. Turn off the Edge browser Reader. There's a very good app called Reader that I really like that allows you to go into dark mode. Although on Edge, I'm using this. It's called Dark Night Mode, and it has a Batman logo. I like that one too. Here, this one is coming in from Jeff Rook. Says, want to send a big old shout out to 3 girlies and the rest of the community. The interactions with this locals fam, my friends, neighbors, family, random people on the street have given me a renewed hope and humanity that I'm sure the politicians will tear down again in short order. Hopefully not. Hopefully not, Jeff, but they'll try, certainly. While I've been reliably informed that you should let the chickens hatch before counting, I'm happy to say that the last half hour is the first time today that the winds have sounded gradually softer. Literally every time I type that, I hear a big gust, so I'm not going to say that again. Yeah. It's testing you. Type it, it's going to pick up. Truly appreciate all the care, love, prayers from the community. Everyone, please stay safe, whether in the storm or elsewhere. And always remember the best resource we have is each other. Yes, my car got towed before my evacuation, but I had friends and family to help me in a tough situation. We truly are stronger together. Just wish the commies and fascists could figure out that only works when it's voluntary. Good comment, Jeff. Yes, it is true. Community is important, right? Especially at times like this. Even if it's just a mental, right? A virtual community like locals or any other community, right? Because oftentimes, you know, in a situation like that, you probably, I don't know what in your particular situation is, but you know, you got to connect with other people. That's how you weather difficult times. Stuckey says, Putin is accused of war crimes. The whole truth about Ukraine is not yet known. Trump rally attendees on J6 are accused of insurrection and they're denied constitutional rights of bail, speedy trial, and humane treatment. The voices wanting to change the process of justice is using guilt by association, to quote Alan Dershowitz, instead of the presumption of innocence. They're saying they're on a dangerous path into totalitarianism. It's frightening. I agree with you, Stuckey. I think that we are in for very interesting times because a lot of those, you know, sort of Enlightenment era Western liberalism lines of thinking, things like equal protection, due process, the presumption of innocence, the beyond the reasonable doubt standard, all of these things are foundational to our society. And the right to a defense, the right to counsel, these things, right? Even lawyers are not adhering to them. Like they're saying, we can't represent Donald Trump because we're too scared about the pushback that we might get, right? So even, you know, like I think back to, who was it? John Adams, right? Didn't John Adams represent the British at the Boston Massacre, right? He represented the British at the Boston Massacre. And you go, where'd that go? Where'd that spirit go? That we fight for the principles in the law, not the politics behind the law. I don't know. I mean, that's what I believe in. I don't know where some of my, you know, criminal defense colleagues have gone, but pretty shocking. Rai T says, have you seen Ricky Gervais's Afterlife on Netflix? No, I haven't. I don't know if you have it in the US, but I'm sure there's a way to watch it. It's beautifully tragic, hilarious at the same time. It's a classic example of British humor. Anyway, the protagonist's wife died. His father has dementia. The father keeps asking where the protagonist's wife is, and it's heartbreaking. Watching Biden wonder where Jackie is reminded me of this. No, I haven't seen it. I was a big fan of the U.S. office. I didn't spend much time in the British office, but, you know, and I know Ricky Gervais, that's sort of his brainchild. So I might like that. I might check that out. But it sounds kind of morbid now that you mentioned the last part there. All right, so that one came in. Let's see. Vientikis is sharing the Hunter Biden crack pipe, saying, I think I found the problem. And Hunter Biden is on the floor of the Baltic Sea smoking the crack pipe, which is the giant pipe emanating out of Russia. We also had another one come in from Zach Nichols. Zach Nichols sent over Trumpy Bear. Says, this is a 1 minute, 20-second run from north end of Pine up to the lighthouse. Maybe check this out later or mute it on YouTube for the YouTube music audio warning. Let's see here. What this? Oh, yeah. Let's see what we've got here. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out later. That came in from Zachary Nichols. Interesting. Okay, and we're going to do one final refresh, and then we're going to leave it there for the day, my friends, because I do think we have all of the comments that came in, and I saw, oh my goodness, we're up to $457 on YouTube. Oh my goodness. Plus the stuff coming in on Locals, plus the stuff coming in on Rumble, plus, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so that is just outstanding. I am so grateful for you guys. I'm trying to process this all right now, and it's just coming in all over the place. All of this is going to go over to Eric's house. I am matching the donos that are coming in. I'm going to be broke. I'm going to be broke. All right. Gonna, you know, beans for dinner tonight, I guess. I really am grateful for this. We did one final refresh over here. We've got a couple other comments that came in, and then we are going to wrap it up for the day. Robute says, remember, Vladimir Putin gave Snowden Russian citizenship while the U.S. is trying to imprison him for life and eliminate him. It says Russian citizenship, as well as the horrible diplomatic means that the horrible diplomacy means that Edward Snowden will not get extradited to the United States. Yeah. So, right. I don't know what's going to happen with Edward Snowden or what that whole debacle looks like over there. But yeah, I did see that he got citizenship. ZW Troll says, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I highly recommend to everyone to watch the documentary Ukraine on Fire on Rumble. Very important about what's going on. Certain powers trying to destabilize the world in the U.S. Great show, Rob. My mom says hello. Shout out to Mom over there in the ZW Troll household. I'm grateful that you're here, Mama ZW Troll. Hopefully you enjoy the show. Says we're watching together today and my little brother. And shout out to little brother at the ZW Troll household. I'm grateful that you're all here joining in on the program. Hopefully you're having an amazing day. And I appreciate the recommendation. I'm sure that many other people will as well. All right, this one came in from Speech. He says, yes, they're putting fentanyl in those candy boxes. The ones in the picture were seized. Ugh. Watch this clip up to the 26-second mark.
The fentanyl crisis continuing to devastate families across America. And now it could be showing up in your kid's Halloween candy bag. Health officials are raising concerns about brightly colored fentanyl pills that are being found in packaging that looks like candy. Two men arrested after selling rainbow-colored fentanyl pills inside candy boxes like Nerds and Skittles.
Yikes.
And DEA officials believe it's the cartel's way to target children as young as middle school.
Oh, my gosh. That is so terrible. Well, I guess, that's okay. It's okay, I guess. I mean, it's just the border. We should probably, who cares? Forget about it. Just leave the borders open. No problem. Don't even make any noise about it. Just kind of standard business, I guess. So shocking. I'm obviously being facetious. It's a catastrophe, and kids are dropping dead all over the place from this stuff. So not good. Thank you, Speech, for bringing that to our attention. Parents, obviously, scary times. Rai T says watching Rob be both chuffed and anxious about the amount of money coming in is such a show to watch. Honestly, I was not expecting it. I was not expecting it at all. You guys are extremely generous, and it's incredible. Honestly, it's like amazing. I'm thrilled to match everything that comes in because it is honestly for a good cause. I know there's a lot of places you can donate and organizations you can support. I know Eric's house. I am on the board at Eric's house. I have spent hours and hours and hours, pulling weeds and doing all sorts of stuff for Eric's house. Really, really healing work takes place over there. And I am grateful for your work, for your support. It really goes to services. So thank you for that. But that, my friends, is it for us for the day. I want to thank everybody who was a part of the show over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We have more comments. We have more comments from yesterday. I almost forgot. We have comments from yesterday that we did not attend to that I almost forgot to get to. So let's see where we left off, because the last one I think we started off was sniffing the sniffers. Oh, gosh. Yeah, this was from yesterday. John McGarvey. Sniffing the sniffers with Trumpy Bear. Oh, yeah. Remember, and then everything broke, probably because of that comment. Former LEO was talking about Nord Stream, saying, I know this is pretty deep, but have they ruled out an accident yet? Don't the climate Nazis hate pipelines? Yeah, they did, but I think that they said that in order to actually execute this, that it would be a nation state. You have to have like a, submarine. Maybe the Russians did it for fake news or misdirection. It's kind of hard to tell without a program. Yeah, you're right, former. Radice says, please let your mom know that when you live stream, last time I donated to Eric's house, she called me during a live stream to thank me. I thanked her for the call and said I needed to get back to your show. That's my mom. I'm not kidding. Like she'll probably call you or send you a note or something. I don't want to obligate her to that. So don't expect that. But she's really grateful for everything that comes in, every dollar. Honestly, she's extremely great. I'm grateful for it. And so I'm glad you got to talk to my mama. All right, former LEO says FBI and DOJ stated that the Trump attorney signed a false property inventory, that all records had been removed. Now they modified their inventory twice. So are any FBI agents being charged with filing a false inventory? Excellent point there from the former LEO. Excellent point. Just wait until Trump releases the surveillance video to impeach them. Yeah, that's why I made a big deal about it yesterday. 63 documents, huh? 63 documents that you added to your inventory. It's kind of hard to keep track of documents, isn't it? It's hard to keep boxes labeled and count the papers and all sorts of stuff. So maybe when Lindsay Halligan signed her custodian of records certifying that all of this has been taken care of, maybe you shouldn't automatically presume that that is criminal intent that justifies a raid at the FBI. Ridiculous. Good comment on there, former LEO. And Trump has said he's not going to release the surveillance video, but if this thing goes to trial, he can certainly use it to impeach them, no doubt about it. Former LEO says the DOJ is now going to be requesting an extension to October 2024. Well, did you see that the J6 committee postponed their hearing that was supposed to be sent out today? They postponed that. And so why? Well, it's because there's still plenty of runway left on the election field, and they need to postpone it closer to November. So they'll do that. Vientikis says the walls are closing in from billions of light years away at a snail's pace. Yeah, they're always going to get Trump. Yeah, we know. Jeff Rook says, hey, I've been swamped lately, usually too frazzled to grasp the legal jargon. Luckily, work has lightened up in Florida with Ian coming in. I see a justification for any side. The West clearly would have the justification for ratcheting up tensions and anger in Russia. But I could also imagine a scenario where Russia would want to cut off fuel supplies to Europe while having plausible deniability that it's not their fault. If they just close the taps, it could easily be portrayed as Russia stops fuel. Germany runs out of fuel. People die of cold. Russia killed Germany. Frankly, if it was the Russians in a roundabout way, I think it points to a lower chance that they resort to tactical nukes. In my mind, it would mean they're trying to weaken their opponent while limiting the supply of more propaganda for the Western war drums. Another good observation there from Jeff. Yeah, I think that there are many ways to game this out, and I don't think it is as cut and dry as really anybody probably thinks. I mean, unless it is as obvious as they just blew up a pipeline because they were opening up a competing pipeline. Don't know. Rick Sick of BS says, crazy times, but I did find some truthful pictures. Let's take a look at what is here. Oh yeah, it's Dr. Fauci. What's this guy called? The something man. I forget what that one was. Here's Hillary in looks like some sort of propaganda, Russian propaganda. And who's this guy? Oh, this is Trump. We shall return. I don't know what style that is in, but okay, that is another interesting one. Rick's sick of BS. Thank you, Rick. Three Girlies is here. Shout out to the youngest girly. Says, so it seems the government needs more time in finding new documents. And of course, the government is going to find the most expensive and wasteful vendor that they can. Also, how is Trump supposed to know that what they took and what they didn't take? The SM special master is asking for an inventory list for Trump to say that what was and wasn't taken, but that's without having an inventory list from the government. How is he supposed to know exactly what they took or didn't take? He doesn't. Did we talk about that one yesterday, or there was a similar question yesterday? But he doesn't, right? That's the question. Does Trump know? And I've had this question since this whole thing started. Like, does he even know what are in the documents? Like, if somebody came into my house right now, where I'm sitting, and took everything out of here, I would have a rough idea of what was taken. And I'd probably be able to get, I don't know, I mean, there's books all over the place. I don't know, maybe 30% of them, like of all of them, maybe more, 50%. I could just rattle them off. This one is there. This one, maybe 50% if I tried really hard. But if you don't have it all written down, and of course, these are government documents and classified documents and all that stuff. So there are different standards, but there's also magazine clippings and a bunch of other crap that they took. So you really don't know. I don't know if he knows or not. And that's pretty important. But shout out to the youngest girly over there. Did you find the flag hidden in Trumpy Bear? Comes from emotional old cat lady. No. What? No, I didn't see that. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Emotional old cat lady. Look at this. Here, listen. Oh my goodness, there's a flag in there. Oh my goodness. No, I didn't see that. So what does it come out? Is it like a cape? Oh my goodness. This thing just keeps getting better and better. It's the gift that keeps on giving. There's a flag back there. Oh gosh. Can continue to have fun with this. Thank you for that, emotional old cat lady. Learning more and more every day. Words Mean Thing says the president is very focused on making sure that the federal family has the right resources available. Excuse me? The federal family? You know, I caught that too, Words Mean Things. And I didn't know if I heard that right or if I was mistaken, and that's something else that I didn't know about. But yeah, I think she said family, and I was just as grossed out and offended as you were, right? No, don't say that. No, I don't even, not even close. V says that the Jones Act is BS. Puerto Rico needs to either become a state or be let go. Fired? Although I would suspect that what would happen with Hawaii's path to statehood would also happen to Puerto Rico. Well, look, the Biden, I don't know what's going on with that ship out there floating around with diesel, but the Biden people should, hopefully do something about it. It says, repeal the Jones Act. Hawaii will be grateful too. Also Puerto Rico. Great way to reduce prices on those islands. Says they didn't ask Congress to change the nuclear first strike in April. Thanks, Biden, for bringing us closer to another level of annihilation. And since throughout the war in Ukraine, they have reported basically the opposite of what is real, I want to change my vote to Ukraine based on what you read. That came in from IT. Another one from Jeff Rook says, lengthy, so feel free to speed read. Says, shout out to 3 girlies for checking in with Florida. Happy to say, loving friends and family helped me get out of the storm surge. Says, okay, so I did not read this one. Says, okay, I'll try to update the locals fam on what's going on. Also, I've worked in construction. I'm pretty darn confident in the construction of the buildings around here. Main concerns, storm surge, flooding from the rain. I hope that anyone in Fort Myers is tracking the shift further south. I was located on Davis Island, an island in the middle of Tampa Bay. I had the very odd coincidence of my car being towed for the first time early a.m. After living in that location for 2 years. Mind you, it's mandatory evacuation. I've had a parking pass in the same spot on my dash for my entire residence with no issues, though they claim they have pictures showing it's not there. I've complained enough, so a legal question, though you're not in Florida, what kind of precedent do you know of any for matters like this? I know towing companies, at least here, are pretty bulletproof. Surely a declared emergency would impact the taking of someone's means. I'd imagine even if there was no pass, it shouldn't be towed. It's a great question, and I'm pretty sure that you'll have a difficult time with the claim on that. The government, you have to think about it this way. The government almost has limitless power in emergencies, truthfully. If they can make think about what they did to us in COVID. Think about all of the different things that we've talked about here. And Jeff, you've been here for a long time. So we've talked about all of the grotesque violations that the government can impose upon a society in the event of an emergency, basically whatever they want. And we covered many challenges all over the place. And so I agree with you in principle that sort of taking other people's property away from them and moving it around and all of those things is an egregious offense. I'm a big property rights person. I think that it is a manifestation of our life. We transfer our energy and our work into money and to convert that into property. So it's an extension of our life, and we have to treat that very clearly and appropriately and with caution. But in this situation, think about it from the other perspective. Your car is in a public location. You've got a storm surge that's going to come through, probably blow cars all over the place, probably cause more damage. And so if the government has any rational basis, this is sort of the technical term. If the government has any rational basis for doing something sort of in the public space in the middle of a national emergency, they'll do it. So I don't think that you have any real recourse. I think that you'll probably see, I can't imagine like you'll be charged towing fees or anything like that. I would imagine all of that would be waived, but it's a great question. And I hope you're doing well. That was Jeff Rook. Thunder7 says the ship from Puerto Rico is obviously filled with white supremacist and terrorist oil, saying it's a symbol of Nazi oppression and white privilege. Biden will send in the FBI to arrest everybody. Thank you, Thunder7, for that one. We had another one come in from Vientikiss, talking about fermented foods are good for the biome. Rai T says, Remember when Trump warned the Germans about relying on the Russian gas and the Germans laughed at him? As Nigel Farage once famously said, well, they're not laughing now, are they? Yeah, I saw that clip, and the Germans were sort of mocking him, specifically, sort of yucking it up. Vientikis says, Russia waited 8 years before invading Ukraine. Russia also has been very conservative in its attacks in Ukraine. But now they're going to go for a short game by blowing up the pipeline? V says, that's unlikely. Heather, 3 Girly, says, not sure who killed the Nord Stream, but Manchin has wussed out on permitting here. He told Schumer to drop it from continuing resolution to fund the government. It looks like the gas situation is going to get worse for everybody. Yeah, Manchin. Here, Facts Matter says, Roberto, in honor of free speech, maybe do a 30-minute YouTube starter video and then go over to Rumble once a week. Kind of like Viva is doing. Got to train the best chat on YouTube ever to move on over. I've been thinking about that. Yeah, and I've been thinking, saying, yeah, here, Emotional says, other YouTube channels are doing that too. I've been thinking about it. I've also just been thinking about just cutting off the YouTube comments portion. I'm sorry, the locals comments portion, and just doing that on other platforms. Thunder 7 says, but I haven't made a decision on it, and we'll see. I do have some emails from Rumble, actually. We'll see. That evil politician who cheered on the pipeline sabotage is a Harvard senior fellow. He doesn't care that the people will have no heat this winter. It doesn't affect Putin. He says Russia is knee-deep in gas and oil, has a surplus. Once again, it's the people who suffer due to the policies by these globalist elites. Can't wait until the EU is totally destroyed when every country leaves and becomes a sovereign nation. I Am Techie says, did Trump and the MAGA cause the explosion on the pipes? That's an election for sure if you ask Schumer. 3 Girly says, remember, we have bases in Germany. We have access to German territory and even sway in the government. Member of the EU Parliament member. MEP, member of European Parliament. He is an EU Parliament member. Did I get that wrong? What did I say? I may have said something wrong about that, but thank you for the clarity on that. FedCure says, Rob, forget about it. Who took down Rumble is what we want to know. Sorry, can't participate today. Busy with Ian. We're under tornado watch until Wednesday. Geez, only back on southern Florida seems like a problem. Feels like the swamp is following. Prayers for the west coast of Florida. You got them, FedCure. We are sending that your way. All right, and those were yesterday's comments, and so I do believe that we are caught up. Let's do a final refresh over on our stream here and make sure that we got everything. Yeah, so we're up to speed over on locals as well, my friends. And so that is where we are going to leave it here for the day. I want to thank everybody who joined in on the fun today over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Shout outs to Vientikis, Sausen. We have B-Spec over there, C. Reed, all chatting away along with Savvy Sue and Sausen Academy and others. Zach Nichols, I see over there as well. Over on Rumble, our friends Anything, KMO 2020, Candy Gas, Dog Digger. We've got Fed Cures over there. Shout outs to Rick 2020, Donald Trump, and others. Yes, all right. And so that's over on Rumble. And my friends over on YouTube, oh my goodness, $506 raised. Oh my goodness, out of control. Thank you so much for this. I'm going to match every dollar and start eating ramen noodles, but it is really going to go to a good cause, and so I'm so grateful for it. Thank you so much to our friends over on YouTube as well, and I know those locals tips and those Rumble rants, I'm going to add them all up, and we're going to update the numbers tonight. And you can join on YouTube. If you want to become a member of our communities, we didn't talk much about it today, but we have morning walk and talk videos. We have morning live streams. We did a morning unboxing. And so I'm going to try to start doing more of those things. Join us over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com or click that join button right next to the subscribe button on YouTube. Hopefully you are subscribed. And once again, thank you for all those donos. If you want to learn more about Eric's House, please check out ericshouse.org. We've got a big fundraiser coming up on October 8th. We are going to be live streaming the whole thing, I think, on their channel this year. And so it's going to be a live fundraiser. Mark your calendars if you want to come and check that out. But certainly check out the link in the description if you want to support Eric's House. And I'm grateful to everybody who donated today. Honestly, really, really, really amazing. I wasn't expecting it at all. And I'm extremely grateful. So that, my friends, is it for the show. I want to thank the mods who modded down the fort for us and who kept things nice and orderly. Shout outs to Vientikis Prime, K Bean. We also have Just Cause, Lean, Playin' Hooky, Shout out to Ronnie Cole. Lean says, Rob doesn't listen to me anymore. It's like, Lean, I'm listening to you right now. I'm listening to you, Lean. I care about your thoughts and opinions, Lean. Says, right there, Lean. Shout out to Lean. Says, shout out to Playin' Hooky. Shout out to Ronnie Cole. Shout out to Zulu, who's in the house. Our friend Geomancy Games, subscribe on YouTube. And Henry Dixon stops by from time to time. Also want to thank all of our amazing Spotlight supporters who support the show with a little bit of extra love out there. Shout outs to Chris Romero, David B3, Dr. EMB in the house, along with John over at qsimple.com. Check out qsimple.com. John supports the show, and I want to support John and the doctor and David and Chris Romero. Thank you all for supporting the work that we do here. But that is, so yeah, his story is now on. So it says, how much have you raised so far? I'm going to add up all the numbers tonight. I had yesterday's numbers, and I don't know what the total is from yesterday's, but on day one with my match, it was $1,500 on Monday. So I'm going to add up to today's numbers. I'm sorry, yesterday's numbers, and then today's numbers, and then we'll see. I'm going to, it's going to be a lot. So it's going to be great. I'm very excited about it. But that, my friends, is it for the show for the day. And I'm so grateful that you were here to spend some time with us. We are going to be back here again tomorrow to do it all again. And I hope to see you here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Have a tremendous evening, my friends. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Have a great night.